Okay, you guys, so I'm thinking we should get started. We've got a quorum. Derek's clearly coming, so let's get rolling. How's that?
Derek's here.
Oh, okay, there he is. Yay. Hey, Derek.
Hello.
Okay, I'll get started on an introductory spiel. Welcome to the August 24th, 2021 meeting of the Community Relations Committee. We'd like to thank Easthampton Media for recording tonight's meeting. All past meetings of the CRC can be found on our city website for viewing at any time. What happened?
What do you mean, what happened?
I can't see you all. What happened?
Everything looks the same for us.
Okay. All right. Sorry about that. All committee members and participants in this meeting are gathered remotely during the COVID-19 pandemic under an executive order of Governor Baker on March 12, 2020, and is extended by him on June 16, 2021, allowing us to do so. For the benefit of those of you who are joining us from the community, I'd like to start this meeting by sharing our committee's mission statement. Our mission is to promote positive relations throughout Easthampton's diverse population. We will work to build a sense of inclusion, community, and pride where community members feel welcome, accepted, and valued. We'll begin this meeting with a roll call. Rebecca Passa. Here. Patty Dougherty.
Here.
Emily Britton.
Here.
Margaret Kirstein.
Here.
Jan Norman is absent. Myra Oyedemi is absent. Gabby Stevenson is absent. Deborah Lusnia here. So we have a quorum. We will proceed. And this meeting is a work session. And the topic of the work section is, it is a strategic planning session with Derek Dean from the Department of Justice. And we are going to focus on that along with our program priorities and goal setting and resources we need, etc. So with that said, I'd like to turn it over at this time to Derek Dean from the Department of Justice. Welcome, Derek.
Thank you, Deb, and it is good to be here. Welcome all. So I guess we can jump in. I did hear a little bit of the conversation about those who aren't here. I guess I share their regrets, but we can jump in. And so the first thing is just a quick summary. Last session, we kind of reviewed the survey results, identified the top 5 priorities identified by the group out of about 13. From that, it was narrowed down through discussion to 3. And the first, which by consensus seemed to be the first priority, was the foster through education and public information, a general awareness and understanding of community relations and city operations. And so with that, I just wanted to open it up as a priority and just to enter into dialogue about what that looks like. What does that program priority look like? If it has been successfully implemented.
So you're choosing the number 3 priority.
So it was the number 3, but after discussion, that became the one that you guys focused on the most as the, for lack of a better word, the lowest hanging fruit, or better phrase. You don't recall it that way, Margaret, or you have other?
Well, I can't say I recall it. I'd have to look through my notes. I was more busy printing out instead of reviewing what we talked about last time. I was printing out what you sent along, and so I could have a reference, because when we have like the split screen and I see, some of your, I can't remember the name of it, your slides, I get, it just gets disjointed for me. So no, I'm not saying I disagree with that. It just, for me, that one it just seems vague. It would be nice to talk about it and find out what it actually means.
Yeah, which is why and just as Margaret, thank you for that, but the number 1 getting recommendation or topic was engage residents and businesses through developing or supporting programs, events, and projects that support the committee's purpose. That was the number 1.
Mm-hmm. 1 and 2, yes.
And yeah, and then this was 3, and then 4 was enlist the cooperation of other governmental agencies, groups, organizations, and individuals in the community, attentive to community relations. The next one was periodically promote educational opportunities for the community related to strengthening intergroup and community relations, i.e. undoing racism workshops. And then 6, promote strong neighborhoods and community connections, i.e. community mapping. Those are the top 5, if you will, ranked priorities. Mm-hmm. But again, through discussion, the group really focused on the foster through education. And so Margaret brings up a good point. What does that mean? What does that look like? What will that look like?
Mm-hmm. Is there any chance somebody could cut and paste that phrase into the chat?
Yeah,
my printer doesn't work at home, and I forgot to save the document.
Absolutely. If you give me a second, I will bring it right up.
And I have a terrible internet connection, so I closed everything except for my Zoom. So I'm sorry.
No problem.
All right.
What I'll do is I'll bring up the top 5. Mm-hmm. Put it on. Let me find it here. And my computer is real slow.
Shall I type into the chat that number 3, the foster through education and public information? I can do that while you're doing.
Okay. If that helps.
I'll just do that.
Okay, good deal. Thank you. Mm-hmm. That was Rebecca.
Okay.
So, does it make sense to focus on, to really just in terms of focusing, does it make sense to focus on that one thing for now and talk about, I'm just looking at this, what does that mean? Examples of how we would do that. And then looking at Derek's questions, what are the challenges to that? How do, would it make sense to try and break down one goal before trying to attack anything, multiple goals, and sort of see if there's some context or some way we can come up with to look at these goals to build a sort of a structure around how we would achieve them.
Mm-hmm.
So that was my intention, is to focus just on this one goal.
Okay, good.
And again, I guess to find a commonality, how everyone sees this playing out would be to discuss what it means, what it will look like. And then from there, once we understand what it would actually look like, we can start piecing it together, how to get there.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So some of the things that came up at our last meeting in terms of what does this look like, just to kind of get everybody's creative juices flowing on this one. It really was about teaching, some of the comments were about teaching citizens how to better access City Hall to kind of serve as and how city operations work. You talked a little bit about being kind of this, for lack of a better phrase, a liaison between current events that's happening in the city and a source where people could get that information. You talked about specific events that were coming up in particular. You talked about also using this to foster understanding and information about events that support the CRC's mission.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So the one that we're focused on, I'm sorry to backtrack here, but we're focusing on the one that Margaret typed out for us.
Right.
Is that
In the
right?
chat.
Foster through education and public information, a general awareness and understanding of community relations and city operations.
Okay.
A little bit more background. This recommendation came from the founding ordinance for the CRC.
Well, I'll say something just like pie in the sky, like maybe to start conversation. Like it seemed so much of what we talked about in the past circled back to the fact that we have a hard time. We don't really have a mechanism for communicating effectively, reaching everyone in our community. And we used to have that with newspapers, but that's not really the case anymore. And so it's a weird time for our community, and most, I'm sure, because we have Facebook, but that's only a segment of the population, and certainly not everyone's engaged in that. But it's kind of like the only electronic sort of supplement we have for a sense of community. So it's kind of just a weird time because there's no central point for communication. And so one of the things that I started thinking more about was that it would be so cool if we did have, like we currently have the emergency notification through the phone system for everyone in the community, so that if there's some important message that has to get out to everybody, it can happen through whatever phones we sign up, the cell phones, home phones, whatever. Like if we had some ability to have like a newsletter that could be, an email subscription, and get a real campaign to get everybody in the community subscribed, like a real effort, promotional effort to get everybody subscribed, to have like an email newsletter situation that we could have the community come to rely on for key information about what's happening in the city, any particular news or good news or information or meetings or events, whatever. And maybe it's monthly, maybe it's less frequently than that. I don't know. But of course, I also think something like that would be very, very labor intensive and require a lot of hours. And so I wonder, as our mayor has been talking about the possibility of having some kind of staff person help with this function of community relations, maybe like that could be part of a staff function, and it could be a real concerted effort to like have this mechanism where we can all receive information and be connected.
So Deb, what kind of information do you see being on that?
Well, if there were any sort of events coming up, in the city, say there's a concert at Mill Pond, or, there's cultural chaos coming up, or there's the farmer's market on Saturdays and Tuesdays. There's a pumpkin festival, fall festival event happening at Nunatak Park for kids. Whatever it is, you could have all those kind of general announcement events things. You could also have part of that be a schedule of upcoming city meetings. So people would know, they would be in front of them. They'd have a resource they could just go to in their own inbox that would say, oh, okay, this committee's meeting at this time, this time, this time. So it's in front of people. They know the schedule of city meetings for the next month or whatever. So, maybe kindergarten registration is this particular week of the year, or, our schools are doing a blah, blah, blah hunger drive. If you want to participate, drop off your cans at the community center or whatever, like that kind of thing. Or, these city committees need people to serve on them. Would anybody be interested? And this is the job description for these city committee positions. That kind of thing.
I think it's an interesting idea. I know that we did talk about, and again, I think it would be contingent on a staff person. I wonder if it wouldn't start out more with city meetings and really making people aware of what the work that the city council and the committees are doing. You know, we had, for example, in my neighborhood here, everybody was a little blindsided by the 90,000 gallons of propane that's currently being stored at where Strong Bus used to be. And we didn't have to be informed because we're not within 300 feet of, so the ordinance only calls for neighbors, abutters to be informed if it's within 300 feet. So I just found out by accident because my neighbor found out, and he, you know, and by the time we knew what was happening, it was pretty much too late. But if there is information about the things that the zoning board is looking at, or the things that the safety committee is looking at, then people who are interested in those things could make, you know, if they can fit it into their schedule, make sure they're at those meetings. Because I think most people don't want to go to every safety committee meeting, but if they're looking through and they see something, oh, wow, that's in my neighborhood. They're talking about putting speed bumps up or whatever. Then I think that would be a really good way for there to be more transparency around what's happening, what's going through these committees, and what's being voted on in city council. People aren't connected to that. And I think that's one of the biggest things that people don't feel connected to. And then things happen and they're like, I didn't know that was happening.
Right.
Or this government is not transparent.
Right.
So I would start with that. I think that's a big thing.
Yeah. I agree with you, Patty. I mean, lots of the things Deb said would be good for people to know about, but I also think people who want to go to some of those things can seek it out, but we don't know how to seek out what's going on in these city committees. It's a bit more of a mystery. And so if we think about like really it's like the city needs a PR department, right? to use the avenues of information that already exist. Because you're never going to get all of Easthampton on Facebook. You're never going to get all of Easthampton reading one newspaper. You're never going to get all of Easthampton driving by the Rotary looking at one sign. You know, like we've got to look at all avenues. So, I mean, can we ask, you know, like, can we ask for the staff person to start, you know, sending out information to all these different areas that we know already exist? And we can ask our neighbors, like, how would you want to find out about the city? You know, people would say, oh, I only read the reminder, or I only look at Facebook, and I only look at this website on this site on Facebook, because there's several Easthampton things on Facebook. And then we could go to each committee and ask them to update every month, send a little update every month about their upcoming meetings, and have that go to one staff person who then filters it out to all of these avenues of communication. Maybe something like that. No.
Yeah, and let me just clarify. I think it is good. I think the other stuff, like the events and stuff, are great as well.
Right.
I would just prioritize what's happening in our city government. Because a lot of these events, there's somebody doing promotion for them
already. Right.
But
But it's really hard. Like, say we were having an event that we wanted everybody to attend in the city. Well, you know, it's a lot of work, and it's hard. You're going to put, you know, flyers in storefronts, and how do you reach everybody? You're going to put an ad in the newspaper and get that little segment of, you know, it's just so much. if there was a central resource where you could find out what's happening, get the details, maybe you see a glimpse of some kind of concert that's happening and you want to know, what day is it again? What time is it? Where is it? You can go there to find out.
I totally agree that it would be nice to have one point of resource, information, but I don't know that we're such a diverse community. How would we ever get everybody to agree or to want to do one same way of learning the information, right?
Well, I think this would just be one more. I mean, there are, because there's different segments of the population. So, for example, like the senior center puts out its little newsletter, I can't remember the name of it, that has things that mostly, things that are mostly for seniors, obviously. The schools put out their stuff. So I think it would be I don't think it would be the end all be all. And that's I guess that's what I meant to say, around the events. There's already, so I'm not saying they couldn't use this, but they're also doing other promotion. So there's Facebook, there's this that's coming from the city, there's other organizations promoting. So it is cross promotion. It's just that this would be the city's contribution to promoting these things. Doesn't mean that it would show up other places.
I'd like to mention, as you may have seen, the city updated its website. The city does have a calendar on there, and they say, select a calendar. You can see all calendars, city meetings, police, prep for reveal. I don't know what that means. City events, fire. I think that, so if I click city events, I don't see a lot, but it could be that since it looks like they've done some work to try to provide that. And it could be that if we find ways to work and call more attention and have the senior center linked in. I'm just trying to say, departments, can I find the senior center? Maybe if I do a search or something, and I also see that a choice, subscribe to iCalendar. And I've also noticed that it's possible to subscribe in such a way that I tried this already, actually, to be notified about certain city meetings. So then I'm getting too much email, right? The city council's meeting, this is meeting, that's meeting, but it's all on the calendar. So it might be that that being there, how do we take advantage of that? And is there a way to highlight it, make it more accessible, pull out information, but who chooses what information we put out? But anyway.
Well, kind of following up on your idea, Rebecca, that whole thing could fall under general awareness and understanding. I could envision if we had an electronic newsletter type thing where you could highlight even some fun facts about our city government and, as an educational piece, and include it in there and direct people to, did you know that, on the city website, you can go here and you can click on this and you can get notifications for that. And you can, it would be an educational tool. You could periodically educate people about what they're able to access on the city website and where to find it. And, it can encompass so many different things, or educate people on little tidbits. Did you know that you can speak to the city council at any time at one of their meetings during, blah, 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 just little things that so many people in our city might not even know or understand,
Right.
Like a little blurb about what public speak is and what that means and why and how, and, little things like that, a little educational brief. I mean, if anything's too heavy or text heavy, people aren't going to read it. But if it's presented in an engaging and fun and very succinct way, I think we can get really key, important nuggets of information out there for people to connect them.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just looking through here, like on the new website, and like I just put in, I want to see what the safety committee agenda is. The amount of things that show up, including like city council rules, shows up when I do that search. I mean, it's just, we're still asking people to dig for what they're, like this is great. I think they did a great job. I'm not being critical at all. But I think we're still asking people to dig for something that they might not even know they're looking for.
Right. I know.
So can I summarize real quick what I'm kind of hearing? The ideas that are coming out. So first it would be to serve as some type of electronic, accessible conduit for information about city events is a priority. Secondarily, perhaps community events. That the main goal would be to make information more accessible. There was a thought of having perhaps additional fun facts about city government and about like what public speak is. There was also consensus, it seemed, that in order to pull this off, there would need to be a staff person that would be hired to do the research, to keep whatever this vehicle is up to date and current.
And I think to add to that, I think a really important piece of that was Deb's thought that there would have to be some kind of citywide promotion for people to opt in to receive this. Like that would be key. Like, hey, you think you don't know what's going on, here you go. Yeah, this is what's happening.
Need to be like a strong campaign, like an advertising campaign to get people to sign up and help them to understand what it is and how it would benefit them.
So can I ask you some questions for my own clarification? So the city does have a electronic calendar that allows the community to access events and meetings. Would it be the same link, or would it be something wholly owned, if you will, by the CRC?
I mean, it seems like it would be a lot of overlapping work if we did something entirely separate. But then, as Patty said, you had to dig pretty deep to get to, whether the propane tanks are being discussed in such and such a committee meeting and when that meeting is. Like really finding stuff out. You have to dig, and people have such a short attention span these days.
How do I get to this calendar from the main menu?
I'm sorry, did you ask how?
How do I get to the calendar from the main menu? Like I'm on the home page here. I just keep scrolling.
I'm trying to remember how I found it. Let me come start at the
You
beginning.
just have to scroll down. Might be different on the mobile. Here's a calendar.
So I want to ask Derek, like other towns this size surely have had this, problem to solve, I would assume. So what have you heard? What have the solutions been?
Actually, I think this approach, to my understanding, is relevant to a problem of accessing information. I think this committee's approach is relatively novel and unique. I can ask my colleagues from across the country if they've run across anything similar. But yeah, no, I think this approach is relatively unique. One of the things that makes, again, this unique is that most communities the size of Easthampton would not have access to paid staff. And so by actually having a committed staff person that could not only run the website, but maybe one or two other priorities of the commission, that really puts you ahead of the game, ahead of cities your size in many, many, many ways.
Can I just say something? As I've been I'm on my phone looking at the new website, and one of the things in terms of news, city news, there was something posted August 4th that Easthampton text alerts and issue reporting now available to the public. And so the contact person is Lindsay Mailer. And Easthampton, the city's upgraded website, offers 2 additional public engagement tools, Notify Me and Report an Issue. Notify Me allows residents and businesses to sign up for notifications of board committee meetings and agendas, alerts from the DPW, events, meetings added to the calendar, job openings, and general news updates. Public and business are encouraged to sign up for the Notify Me for non-urgent updates from the city and specific department updates. So it seems to me that what we're talking about is partly happening.
Yeah, I think we talked a little, I knew that was happening. I guess that's why I go back to, like, I still don't know how, I guess, what do? You contact Lindsay?
Well, it says here, please send suggestions and comments to Lindsay at, it gives her address, about the city community outreach efforts.
The text message thing.
Okay, the website, I'm just reading, I'm scanning this, I'm reading.
Oh, yeah, no, I'm not trying to put you on the spot.
I'm just trying to, it's not that evident to me right this minute.
I think that's part of the problem.
I don't know, it didn't pop out at me, it didn't say like, call this, or, email this and put in your email address, or it didn't, I don't see that right now. Oh, to sign up for Code Red, I don't want Code Red, that's for emergency alerts. It gives us how to do emergency alerts. The website feature Report an Issue allows residents to sign up to report street light outages, potholes, fire hazards, health concerns, public health concerns, ordinance enforcement. Yeah. Sorry. Yeah.
So again, the question to me would be, would this be a CRC vehicle that then links to the city, but the way the CRCs is designed, it's a little bit more streamlined, cuts through some of this other stuff and makes it more user-friendly for a different range of information? That's one thought. That's my second thought. Yeah, so again, my question would be, who would actually would it be a CRC vehicle, if you will, to provide this information? Or are you suggesting that you just link off of the city's website?
I guess I feel like I'd have to, in order to really answer that question well, I'd have to study what's currently offered on the city website and get a better handle on, like, do they have any future plans to continue to embellish that, improve it? What's the vision for that? And really understand that better before determining, is there still a need for something bigger, greater, more helpful? Or is there a way to work with what they're building and make it better, whether it's owned by the CRC or by Lindsay Mailer or whoever? I mean, I guess I feel like I'd need to know a whole lot more intimately about what's out there currently and what their plan is, or if they're done, or where it stands, whatever.
The other question I would have too, and it finally came back to me, is the city website doesn't have community events. They're just city related information. And one of the ideas that came out that would make the CRC's source of information more unique is that it could also include city as well as community events.
Because I think, like the whole community calendar function that used to exist in newspapers or even local television stations, like all that's been lost, it doesn't happen anymore. So it'd be kind of a cool thing, I think. But there may be a way, like there may be a perfect combination of things or a way to really link into the city website to make it easy for people, make it accessible, make it really highly usable and functional for people too. Without duplicating efforts. We certainly don't want to be duplicating anything we don't need to, but
I think that that idea of a campaign to make sure people it's like one of these nesting dolls. They're trying to get information out to people, but they can't get the information out to the people about how to get the information out to the people.
well, it's kind of cool because instead of having every group in the entire city struggle with how to promote their event all the time, all year round, you do it once and do it well and do a big campaign once with the idea of getting people to subscribe to the newsletter, and then you're all set. Then once you've got that base one time really well done, and you've got your solid base of database of subscribers, then you're set, and then you can continue to promote it, obviously, through a variety of ways throughout life. And I'm sure people who use it and value it would recommend it to others. But like you do a real heavy duty, serious effort and push. And then everybody in the world who has events would benefit from that point forward.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I notice if I search on community or even searching on events, they have a hit that says community events and leads to the calendar. So what I'm wondering, or what I'd want to ask Lindsay, for example, is what is the plan? Will the public be able to submit events here and get them on this centralized calendar?
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I'm not familiar at all with, I looked at the new website once quickly, but I haven't spent any time looking at what's available now and how to access it. And so it's hard to know how to work with it. I don't know.
So if Lindsay is headed in the direction that the CRC is thinking, so without duplicating, would then the CRC's effort be just to do a promotional campaign to bring attention to what's already being done?
I think we'd want to ask some questions, right? That, okay, here's this new calendar. How do the powers that be at the city envision the calendar? What's because this is brand new, so what are they thinking about going forward? And how can we promote it, help promote it, maybe think about whether there's a link on the website of the CRC that would be helpful. If we think some newsletters should somehow be tied in, how to accomplish that. But I think that it would be a good idea to see what is still being thought about the new website, because it really is brand new. Mm-hmm. And then we could help connect everybody to it.
So in terms of reaching out to Lindsay and have Lindsay and perhaps the mayor or whoever is Lindsay's manager speak to the CRC about what's happening, is someone from the CRC willing to take on that task, or who should reach out to Lindsay?
I'm happy to do that if we don't have other volunteers.
Okay, I was going to offer too, I'd be happy to do that, work on that too. There's to really be able to meet with her and understand what's the vision, what are the goals of the current, are they done? Is it just phase one? Where do things stand? What are their goals with regard to the website? What do they hope to have for interaction, and in what ways, and what is their plan going forward, all that sort of thing.
So would you invite Lindsay and again, either Lindsay's manager or the mayor to upcoming CRC meeting?
Well, we could do that, or we could also do an initial information gathering meeting of sorts and ask all these kinds of questions and get some initial information from all of them, then maybe get the committee to really all individually look at the website so they're intimately familiar with it, how it works, what's there, what's user friendly, what isn't, what's clear, what isn't. And then maybe set up the meeting then where we could have like a Q&A and some brainstorming about how to make all of it better or more accessible or create awareness or whatever. How do we take it from there? What do we do with it? How do we work with it? Would that make sense? Like get some basic information first, do our homework as a committee, as individuals, to really make sure we understand it, so then we could then maybe meet with them and have a brainstorming session and questions and answers.
Margaret?
I was just going to say that by accident, I have no idea how I got this. You know, when people say to me, I say, how do you do that? They go, I had to noodle around. It's like, what the hell is that? But I noodled, and then this thing popped up. What do I know? It says notify me, and then it tells you exactly. Type your email address to sign up. If you want to receive text messages, do this. Then it tells you, please sign in to subscribe, unsubscribe, and Agenda Center. And it has the Agricultural Commission, the Board of Assessors, Board of Health, the Charter Review, City Council, Appointment Committee. It has a zillion places for you to subscribe to, either through getting emails or text messages from these multiple Commission on Disability, Community Relations Committee, even us, everybody in Council on Aging, everybody in order, and whether you want an email or a text. So it looks to me, even though, again, we found this by accident, that they have a whole thing set up here. I'm trying to even figure out how to send this to myself. And then I can send it to other people, okay?
Right. But I still think the issue is is that campaign piece to help get the word out about those things. And I want to say I know, and this is I'm sorry, this is a tiny bit off topic, but I just thought of this. Like, I know that one of the things the mayor really wants is for people to know that there's vacancies on a lot of committees. And I don't want to get into a discussion about that, but I just feel like sometimes, for me anyway, when I'm trying to tackle something that's very broad, sometimes to have a real focus can help in that situation, like one thing that could then be followed up with. So I'm just wondering if in meeting with Lindsay, is it, asking them, how do they intend to get the word out about this? What can the CRC do to help promote it? And maybe one of the first things, a real priority that we could help do is promote this new communication system, along with the fact that the city is looking for people to get more involved as members of committees. I don't know, like, it just gives you something to really, instead of this broad thing about events and for me, it helps me focus. Like, if I can figure out how to do that, I can figure out how to do the rest. I don't know, it might be something to talk to Lindsay about. That's all.
Lindsay's job, I'm not sure what Lindsay's job is. In my own mind, I made up that she's kind of the mayor's assistant. Is that correct?
Mayor's assistant's name is Zoe.
Zoe, sorry.
Well,
So
there's Zoe there too.
No, there's Lindsay and there's Zoe.
Okay.
Hang on one second. Lindsay is municipal clerk, mayor's office. That's what her
Okay.
signature is.
So she's the city clerk.
No, she's the mayor's
The
clerk.
mayor's office.
She's not the city clerk.
Okay.
She's so, okay, Zoe is principal clerk for the mayor's office. Lindsay is just a municipal clerk for the mayor's office and the license commission. Zoe is principal clerk for the mayor's office and the building department. So it sounds like they do both. Like that was how, I think that's how they were able to structure in people to be clerks in the mayor's office, is that they would also help with other things. So anyway, that's their titles, if anybody cares.
Okay. I'm actually, while we're sitting here, I'm going to just send you the notify me.
Okay.
Okay. And Derek, should I send it to you too?
Okay, that'll work. Yes.
Okay, good. So actually, Derek, I'm sorry I don't have it right in front of me. What's your email address?
It's my first name dot last name at usdoj.gov.
usdoj.gov. Okay. So Derek.Dean@usdoj.gov.
Yes.
Okay, good. Hopefully that will work. All right.
So again, just kind of summarizing what's being discussed, it seems like what this committee is asking for is more information and from the city in terms of what they're already doing in regard to getting information out. And so Deb and Rebecca are going to reach out to Lindsay. And I guess Lindsay's manager would be the mayor. And so Lindsay and the mayor to get further clarification on the city's current efforts and goals for communicating to the public. With the thought in mind, how can the CRC support that or promote it? Or build off of it?
Right, right. I love that. CRC, say those words again. How can the CRC support that?
Promote it
Promote it,
or build off of it?
promote it, or build off of it. Exactly.
And then with that information, that would better inform the committee in terms of what's possible in regards to your vision for fostering through education and public information, general awareness and understanding of community relations and city operations.
Yep.
So the other things, Margaret, I just got your email, so thank you very much.
Well, you can also, interestingly, you can also put this in different languages.
Okay.
Now I put in Chinese, and it gives you every language you could possibly want.
Did they
And
translate it accurately?
now I have Chinese, and I don't really want Chinese now.
Oh,
So,
sad. Did they translate it accurately into Chinese?
well, let me tell you, there's so many, I don't read Chinese, so I couldn't possibly tell you. But but now I have to get it not to be in Chinese, but we'll see what we can do. I'm going to show original. Okay, now we're back to English. But it says select language, and then you have a choice of everything from Afrikaans to whatever the Z would be. I don't even know. Khmer, Korean, Kurdish, Lao, you can have any choice you want. And I guess Latin, we can go into Latin.
So that's beautiful because that makes it more accessible. And then also, with your electronics, you can do the visual impaired as well as hearing impaired access as well on most devices. So it's very accessible.
It's using Google Translate, which, they've been always getting better as time goes on. I don't know how their Chinese is.
So then I guess my question for Rebecca and Deb, do you think you'll be able to get a hold of Lindsay or the mayor prior to your next scheduled commission meeting to then share the information you find?
We can certainly try, right, Rebecca?
Absolutely.
of course, we don't know exactly when our next meeting is going to be, but, or what their availability is, but we could certainly try, right?
Yeah, my guess Lindsay would probably be fairly available. The mayor might be a little bit more challenging to get a hold of, but I would imagine Lindsay's fairly easy.
Yeah.
Easier.
Okay.
Patty,
Well, we can certainly start with Lindsay and see if we can get all our questions answered, right? Yeah.
Can we also talk to them a little bit about, I mean this nicely, but like, communication from them to us regarding things that seem like they're crossover issues. Like this seems like something that we've been spending time thinking about, and there's been this work happening. You know what I mean? So I would ask, just like, I don't know, Deb, you'll find a good way to ask. Like, just like, I feel like we should, like when, let me say it this way. If the mayor is sitting in her office and saying, oh, I wonder how we could communicate better with the community. Let me call my IT guy and my assistant and blah, 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 and do this thing. I think one of her phone calls should be to the Community Relations Committee.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you know, I think I sent to you all the letter I sent to the mayor about the Undoing Racism workshop we heard about kind of third hand. And I actually signed up for it. And it is a 3-day, 9 to 3, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, the 1st, 2nd, and 3rd of October, I believe. A 3-day training, but that's all I know. And and that people that there's only 25 participants, but that any number of people can be on one link. Assuming it's going to be on Zoom. Don't know, but and that they all it was that I should contact Lomax Campbell. Anyway, I have not done that. But I feel like I want to go back to the city and say, what is the agenda for these trainings? Or, you know, I mean, I guess I can go to the source. I assume this person is facilitating. But in any case, it's short on information. And I had to go directly to the mayor to get this. I did I send that to you all?
You did. You did.
Okay, good. I thought I had.
I gotta be honest with you, I have no idea whether I got an email about that or not. I mean.
Say again?
I have no idea whether I got an email about that or not. I would say I didn't, but it certainly could have sneaked through. But again, and I don't want to be like a diva, but if the cities I just think that if they're doing things that seem to be within the scope of our mission, it would be nice if they reached out to us, not by some mass email, but said, hey, I know the Community Relations Committee is working on these issues. This is something we're working on. How can we work together on it? It just seems reasonable to me.
Could the ask be that Lindsay attends your meetings for the next 6 months or however long, so that you can have that kind of in real-time dialogue with her?
I mean, I guess I wonder, does anybody else feel like there's sort of a disconnect?
Oh, totally. I mean, it's in our, the whole creation of this committee was because of racism at the schools, and we were tasked to work on that, I thought, to help the community. So yeah, I felt a little bit strange that was suddenly an event, and not only had we not heard about its planning, but we weren't invited. I didn't get an invite, I know that. So yeah, I thought Margaret's letter was good, and yeah, it was a little strange. Unfortunately, like I wonder who's going to be able to attend 3 solid days in October. I would love to do it, but I don't think it's good to like go in and out for a few hours here and there. That does not sound good, or it doesn't sound respectful, you know.
You know, and I'm interested, you know, but it needs to be something that, I mean, I want to do it and I signed up, but it's a lot of time and I want it to be something that makes sense to me to do, other than just pro forma, just to kind of show up. But,
Right. So anyway, so back, like, I guess my point was that if they're working on ways, if they're working on something that seems to fall within our purview, how can we be a part of that work?
So again, to me, it would make sense I don't think it would be appropriate for the mayor to attend because of perception, but that, you know, she's running the CRC. But if Lindsay served as a liaison, at least for the next 6 months, to serve as a conduit of information between you and the mayor's office, or the mayor's plans and your thinking, I think that would make this process more efficient.
Definitely. Yeah. And we were supposed to have a liaison from the police department.
You do have a liaison from the police department, as a matter of fact.
Never comes to our meeting.
Yeah, he has a specific role, I guess, imagined for him by the police. But on paper, you do have a liaison with the police department. And from what I understand, he's really just awaiting an invitation.
Oh, really? Okay, so we should invite him every other month or something.
So, and again, I would be judicious with his time and the department's time. If there's something that you're talking about that deals with the police, whether that's on an ongoing, regularly scheduled basis or just almost ad hoc, it would make sense to include him. But again, I think more importantly right now, it would be for the Lindsay to serve as the liaison so that you're tied into events. And as you're building out your programs, you're doing so in coordination with city resources. It just makes sense. And the other thing I'm thinking of, if the mayor wanted to fund a staff position, then would this supplement Lindsay's pay through another source so that she can do more CRC work? Leveraging Lindsay to do some of the work that you guys need done. I don't know. Those are, but I guess my question would be, are we tasking Lindsay and Deb to ask the mayor's office to make Lindsay a liaison for the next at least 6 months?
Or at least to appoint a liaison, because we're not in the loop enough.
no.
You know, this undoing racism was one thing. And honestly, we've had an account through the city email, and it's always going to come through as CRC chair. They've got a lot of chairs that are tied in that way. And I think they thought they included us when they sent the notice to chairs or something, but we do not have it in our city account. We don't have the notice of the undoing racism, the original one from the city account. It was only after Margaret asked about it, then they thought they sent it to us. So I think that didn't happen. And I just think to have, whether it's Lindsay or someone designated to be the liaison, to make sure that we're getting, you know, that to flag things that the CRC should know about. Even, you know, public safety is taking on a role of talking with the police about policing, which I'm sure that's fine. I think as we were considering what this committee would be doing, maybe that's one of the things we could have been doing, but it's good to know, hey, if they're doing that and they're doing that, we need to know these things. And maybe I just mention, There was a time, I don't think it was this, I think it was for Race Amity Day, the second Sunday of June 2020. I had been interested in inviting folks to a Race Amity Day presentation. I reached out to the mayor and the chief of police. The chief of police gave it to Dennis Scribner, and I would say that Dennis Scribner attended that entire event. So he did do that. He did say to me in response to that invitation, which was from me, it wasn't from the CRC, but he seemed to encourage us, letting him know about important events. So I think, yes, that maybe we have to think about how to take advantage of that. But
So it seems like on this issue here, the fostering through education, we've got a short-term plan to gather more information so that as you roll out a way to support this effort, the city's efforts, ongoing efforts, you're in the loop and in the know. There's some bonus gains as well. You'll establish a liaison with the city so that there's a more efficient flow of information and that you are in the know about events, can choose to promote them or sponsor them or tie them in with your own programming.
Sounds good.
And so Deb and Rebecca are going to take that task on and hopefully meet with Lindsay, at least, if not Lindsay and the mayor, prior to your next scheduled meeting. And then after that, you can talk more about then how you can support the city's efforts.
Yeah.
Can I just ask one quick technical question of Rebecca? Would you want to pursue, I just want to get your input. Would you want to pursue a meeting like that in person? Or, I mean, I wanted to ask if you're comfortable with that.
that's fine.
Yeah.
I don't know if we need booster shots, but I have 2 vaccinations. So, yeah, that's fine with me.
Okay. Do you want me to place a first phone call? Or do you want to?
Sure.
Okay.
I think you've probably been reaching out more lately. I've met with the mayor in the past, but I tended to ask for it by email and get on the calendar that way. But whatever you think is efficient, if you don't mind placing a phone call, that's fine.
Okay. And I'm not sure she'll be willing to meet in person or not, but we can ask. And if not, we can set up a 3-way conversation some other way. Okay.
Yep.
Thank you for that digression. Thank you, everybody, for your patience.
I'm flexible. Just let me know.
Okay.
So is our next task to determine the date of our next meeting? Sorry, Derek, what were you going to say?
That makes sense.
You want to do that? So let me just ask this question. Are we wrapping up our conversation for tonight for that whole piece of it with an action element, or are we continuing this conversation on this particular topic?
So I think we can't really, as you're saying, can't really go further until you understand what the city's doing and if you would actually be duplicating efforts. So it makes sense to get the information first.
Okay.
My question would be, do we want to tackle the next rated issue, which is enlist the cooperation of other government agencies, groups, organizations, and individuals in the community, attentive to community relations, and begin to brainstorm what that looks like and how you might be able to accomplish that task as well?
I have a question. If you don't
Yes.
mind. At some point, I brought up the PowerPoint that you had so kindly shared with us. And I'm just noticing, I remember what you said about numbers, like the question we just discussed was rank 3 and it had a score of 9.0. It just seemed to me that the question engage residents and businesses, 1 and 2, it seemed to have a score of 9.67.
It did.
So does that put that above the third one, the other one you just read?
Yes.
It does. You want to tackle that one next?
It just looks to me like we actually zeroed in on that one as important.
Yeah,
So
you
let me
did.
read it. It's engage residents and businesses through developing or supporting programs, events, and projects that support the commission's business.
Margaret, would you be willing, or would someone be willing to type it out like Margaret did?
I can do that now if you,
I
gonna
might be
do it,
able to,
Rebecca?
might be able to cut and paste right here. Let's see if I can. Copy, which might be easier than typing the whole thing.
At least the first few words sound a little bit similar to the other one.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah, I mean, they may not be so different when it comes right down to it.
Also, I still want to circle back to, not necessarily tonight, but the whole issue of having the police liaison person come to meetings more often, because I was on the Mayor's Pledge work group and all of that stuff around the police. I feel like we have not really, clarified, for me anyway, about what the CRC's role, if any, is with the police, is with issues about racism in the police. That's all very unclear. I mean, what we're talking about here is communication, publicity, communication, events, being notified about things. But that's not the same as the police department. Because I think I was one of the people who did not, I was probably in the, the things that came up as number 5 through 10 were my priorities. And so we're on 1, 2, and 3, which is fine. It's not like I don't see that as important, and certainly a place for us to start. But maybe what I'm thinking about with the police is something that the CRC grows into.
And to me, that's the number, on this sheet. It's ranked 4, but it was the third one. So enlist the cooperation of other government agencies, groups, organizations, and individuals, the community, tentative community relations, and definitely the police would be one of those other government agencies. So it is queued up, if you will.
Right.
This is another area where I'd like to see more communication. I attended several of the Public Safety Committee meetings. They had started off by considering pieces of the Mayor's Pledge recommendations. And it seemed to me, and I might need to check back in on some of their recordings, but it seemed like they had some thought of tackling some things with the police by hosting community discussion or something. So again, this is where I'm concerned about whether there's a duplication or whether there's something we need to know so that we're complementing that and not trying to do the same thing twice.
So there were, in the mayor's recommendations, the task force recommendations, there were things that were identified specific to the CRC as a recommendation for the CRC to adopt. And they were ranked relatively low in this survey by folks. But part of it was, taking complaints, advising on policies, et cetera, if memory serves me on that. And so I think there's this thought that they want to get the reforms implemented as soon as possible, and they're going with wherever there's a willingness to support, if that makes sense. But I think, again, you should get that directly from the mayor or the mayor's office, what she's thinking in terms of implementing those reforms. And again, if you go with if you give Lindsay an agenda in advance, if you ask her to talk about that particular report, she should be able to brief you on that. You could ask for it in writing, even a written brief on what the mayor has currently underway in regards to those particular recommendations that were identified for the CRC. My guess is if it's best suited for the CRC, the mayor would really like to see the CRC take it on. The question is the CRC ready to take it on?
Right.
I don't know if that helped or made things more confusing.
No. I mean, I think it's a mixed bag. You know, again, I'm certainly not interested in overseeing the police department, but that's not what I'm interested in. But there's something there that's, I don't know, it's kind of just floating. I think it's not germane right this minute, but I don't want us to lose sight of it.
So right now then, according to Rebecca, we are talking about engage residents and businesses through developing or supporting programs, events, projects that support the community, the commission's purpose. The one thing that we've talked a lot about supporting, but not a lot about developing, and again, supporting, are we aware of what programs that are out there? So that to be said, what would that look like if it was successfully implemented? What would you see the CRC doing? Who would the CRC be working with? What type of programs would the CRC be supporting?
I mean, I'd like to think that at least twice a year, if not 4 times a year, we would be either putting on an educational or listening event, or supporting and promoting another listening and supporting event to help our community feel listened to and move towards, open-mindedness. I'd like to think we could do that twice a year at least, but it's been almost 2 years and we've done 0 for that. We had the forum subcommittee, and some of us were looking at all these organizations and blah, blah, blah. And then suddenly we heard that the mayor had this Undoing Racism one set up, which is great. It's not that we can't still do it, because I think we still have money in the budget, but we halted. Why did we halt? We halted
it because some members of the committee were not happy about the fact that the speakers that we had, so facilitators that were selected and we were looking to move forward with, were not members of the BIPOC community. That's
right.
Why.
We halted that, but then Myra and Jan and I did it again.
Mm-hmm.
And we met, the 3 of us, and researched others. We came up with all the questions we were going to ask, and we divided in each. But then we halted, and the halt happened, I think, at a meeting I wasn't at.
I believe this is something that can be brought back to life, if you will.
Sure.
So we don't have to reinvent the wheel. We could just start where you and Jan and I think Myra left off.
Mm-hmm.
So can you explain what was the program what was it that you were working on?
Well, there were several that we were wanting to research, and I think at least 4 of them. And Myra and I had a really good list of questions to ask to find out what their availability would be and how they handle technology and things like that, and how much they knew about Easthampton, and would they be willing to learn about Easthampton. We had some really, really good questions. But then we had a meeting that I was not at where it was decided we're going to halt. The forum subcommittee is not going to go forward yet. Mm-hmm. That's where I can't remember why, but yeah. We
were going to do this strategic planning before.
I
was unsure where we were going.
Yeah, I think you're right. You're right. I think that's it.
It's back in the strategic plan, right? To put this in action so it doesn't get deterred again.
Right. It seemed like there was a lot of conflicting thoughts, and not even necessarily about the content of the plan, but in general about our committee. And I think at that point, Patty and I reached out to Derek and was looking for advice and guidance from him, because it felt like we had originally done all of this, but then it seemed like it was being questioned or challenged, or we needed to revisit all of this as a group, it seemed. And so we were kind of reaching out to Derek for advice and guidance, and he basically directed us to the fact that we probably needed to go back and create a strategic plan. And then that would light our path, and that would give us our direction for going forward, so that we were following what the group has collectively decided for a path.
Right.
What are you thinking, Emily? You got an interesting expression.
I'm thinking that maybe, I mean, certainly, this item of developing programs that support the commission's purpose was the forum subcommittee's goal. And we could share all the questions that we were going to ask these different organizations with the whole committee, and make sure we shouldn't add one more question to make sure it is supporting our purpose here.
I guess,
I do think it our research could go a little bit simultaneous to the strategic planning.
So I think where we're at now is this forum has obviously gained the number 2 vote, if you will. I'm sorry, the number 1 vote getting thing. So there is consensus on the committee to continue the work that was being done. And so it looks like, I think, I don't know what all the issues quite were. I don't recall. But there's definitely support on the commission as a whole, or committee as a whole, to support you, Myra, and Jan in doing the work. And so now I don't know what the issues were. You were saying it was just a question of research, and then it was halted. So where do we need to? So
I just am wanting to interject and remembering, I think part of the problem was we were not all on the same page, or there seemed to be there was some statements that even might have felt like there was some distrust among our group, or I was sensing that, like, distrust among us as fellow members. And there was a lot of, I don't know, it didn't feel like we were all on the same page. And so we reached out to Derek, and I remember Derek saying, you guys have to be together. You have to be focused. You have to be of one mindset in terms of this work. And if you don't have that, you can't start reaching out to the community. You can't start to branch out and do all of this outreach if you don't have your house in order, basically. We needed to get our house in order because it wasn't feeling like we were gelling or we were on the same page. Or anyway, I'm sorry, Patty, go ahead.
No, I mean, that was exactly what I was going to say. We decided that we couldn't move forward if we didn't know what our purpose was. So that's why we took this break to do this work that we're doing right now. And, so I think it's good as long, and this was my worry about, tonight, is that we're basically getting buy-in, right, from each one of us on what this committee should be doing going forward. Because we didn't have that buy-in when we started this process. So I'm hopeful that we will have that buy-in, moving forward based on this process that we stopped everything to do.
However, there's a however, the 3 BIPOC members of this committee are not here.
Yeah.
And Gabby hasn't been at the last this meeting, the previous two. So, so I just think we're kind of, I don't know, we're just a little spinning our wheels here a little bit. Because I think that is one of the major issues, that we wanted more people of color on this group. We have one man, it just, and that's also with having 3 vacancies. It just, I don't know. I think that we're stuck. We've been stuck, and I feel like we're still stuck.
So can I just toss out that you have a quorum?
We do.
From what I understand, if you have a quorum, then you're able to proceed. And if you were to wait on 100% attendance, you might be waiting a long time to get things done. One of the issues this committee has is that the city's doing the work with or without you. And in order for this committee to be relevant, you've got to engage. I think it's, life happens. I understand why people cannot make every meeting.
Sure.
But I forget what the saying is, but one clown doesn't stop the show. I don't know. I don't call anybody a clown, of course, but the show has to go on. And so I would suggest that work with who's at the table right now, move forward. And if people don't like it, they should have been at the table. I mean, that they have a front row seat to participate. But if you continue to wait on that, you won't get the work done.
Right. I was saying before you got on earlier in the meeting that we were meeting so many times in July and August was in and of itself pretty remarkable. Because often people don't meet during the summer just because it's usually pointless. And and I get that, or Jan has his mother is visiting, and of course he's going to be with her, and whatever. But I just think that there have been issues around race in our group and around. They're subtle, but they're there, and it's still. That's all. Just acknowledging it.
Hard not to have all the voices at the table.
Yes.
That's hard.
But all the voices have been invited to the table?
They have been invited.
So they're not, the voices aren't being excluded?
So we miss them. I gotta have my sunshine,
Yeah.
She's going to be our sunshine girl. Do you have a birthday coming up? She'll send you a birthday card down.
So what so we're not planning a forum right now. So I don't know that there's, I don't know that anything we're doing right now feels very out of the realm of what we've been building towards. So I guess my question is, are we saying that one of our goals would be to invigorate the forum committee and try to set some sort, not tonight, but set some sort of goal for holding some sort of event at some sort of date in some sort of future?
Or at least we could just list that as one option for how to accomplish goal number 2. That's one option for us, is to hold that kind of an event. Like, another thing that comes to my mind with that category is that we've talked about this before at different times, is like, what about like reestablishing the welcome wagon for Easthampton? So not suggesting that the group of the 8 of us would take that on and make that happen from soup to nuts, But just like, what if through our committee, we worked to work with our local businesses, work with maybe the Chamber of Commerce, work with other city groups to reestablish something like that, so that new people to our city got some kind of, and it doesn't have to be what used to be for the old welcome wagon. It doesn't have to be coupons, but like maybe there's some sort of really nice welcoming thing we could do for people to help them feel welcome when they come to Easthampton and know more about our city and have some contacts or information or helpful things. And that might be a really nice thing to do under that category. So that's just one of the other things that comes to my mind is doing something like that, where we're looking to engage other residents of the city. We're maybe looking for a volunteer group. Maybe we're going to establish a committee that would take it on, or talk to some businesses or talk to the chamber and see about pulling something like that together. Just as another idea in that category.
Mm-hmm.
Any other ideas?
Yeah, I'd like to mention, so Derek, there was a time you wrote us, it says August 5th actually, and you were asking for us to review materials and write down some ideas. You know, since this pandemic, and Zoom came into play, you know, there have been a number of opportunities that I took advantage of to attend certain different types of what I would call race amity events. Sudbury, Massachusetts has had a series of events, and it was designed to, you know, have a speaker, have a theme, then have breakout groups for people to talk. Now, one of the things they did is that they worked with some local organizations. So to me, the working with additional organizations locally is wonderful. They offered a film. It's a 90-minute documentary called I'm Not Racist, Am I? And they had an availability for people to see the film, and they had some people who created it come to talk about it, and they had these breakout groups discuss it. And they said that this series of events was made possible by a foundation in their town, the Ogden Trust, the First Parish of Lincoln, which is near Sudbury, the library, the Lincoln Public Schools. So I just thought that was really great how they brought that together. So when I'm thinking of ideas, I think of these things that I've been taking in. Another thing that happened right here in Easthampton is that our library scheduled a showing of a film called, I'd have to turn my background off maybe to see it, but this is called An American Story, Race, Amity, and the Other Traditions. So I was pleased that our own library offered the film. I showed up, I saw Myra there, a few other people, but I just think it's when we say engage residents and businesses through developing or supporting programs, I like these programs because we're coming together on an issue that can be tough, but talking to each other, and then involving these additional community-based organizations. So I like to think that this high-rated objective supports the forum subcommittee, and maybe the question is just how do we choose or agree together on what's helpful. But I see all of that kind of effort as educational. So I was pleased to see the film that I mentioned called I'm Not Racist, Am I? And it shows some, they're like high school students, and there was a project for have them come together and talk to each other. It's an interesting film with some points in it that then got asked about in the small groups. But these are educational and great food for thought, and you know, I'd be thrilled to support these kinds of efforts.
What kind of attendance did it get, Rebecca?
Oh, Sudbury was getting a lot of attendance. Do you mean the local film, though?
No, I was thinking of the one in Sudbury.
I can't say that I really remember numbers, but I felt like they had a series longer than just that film, and it was significant. And, I was the outsider. They really were focused on Sudbury and their region, Sudbury and Lincoln. So I don't know. It could have been, I can't say I remember. I mean, I might say between 50 and 100, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
There's a race amity, there's a dialogue called Intimate Dialogue on Race that happens once a month that I attend, and that's definitely been between 100 and 150 people. So people care about it,
Is that local or is that?
No, that's out of the Chicago area. I know some of the people that are doing it.
So,
But,
okay.
But so I'd like to, if we can agree on what, what, the nature of what we want to learn, and then see what we can engage, that'd be great.
So maybe Derek, can you help crystallize some of the thoughts that just came through? So there, I think this idea of forum or educational series or something, and then also I think Deb's idea, which I think the Chamber is a great organization that we should be engaged with anyway, on welcoming people to Easthampton, because there's a lot of new people coming into Easthampton. I think those are great ideas. So I don't know where that falls in where we are right now. I feel like we just went down a little.
Yeah, so in terms of developing or supporting programs, the question is, what would that look like? And the three ideas in terms of what that would look like is, Emily suggested reinvigorating the forum committee, that committee would do at least 2 educational listening events twice a year, or support a listening event. She talked about the research that was being done in that regard. Deb mentioned a welcome wagon for new residents to Easthampton, as you just said, and then a film series. So what I'm hearing is, in regards to what this topic would look like, is just a series of events where you're leveraging what's being done in other communities, developing something. The welcome wagon will be something unique to Easthampton, with a complete Easthampton local flair, and then listening projects where you're engaging Easthampton residents in some kind of structured dialogue or listening on topics, and I'm assuming race, but on various topics. So that's what I'm hearing, is that there would be ongoing programming through the CRC would develop or leverage ongoing programming, minimally twice a year, perhaps more.
Can I throw out something else?
Please.
I like another idea, just thinking under this category is, we could sponsor, and I'm not suggesting this specifically really, but it's just like a brainstorming idea. We could sponsor something like it used to happen at the elementary school every year, a cultural festival. And it was the coolest thing. We had a cultural festival when my kids were in the elementary school. I think it went on for years, where everybody was invited to participate, and you could bring food that represented your background, your heritage, and bring objects that did paintings, artwork. You could bring clothing, you could bring anything and everything that represented something from your heritage. And people had, stories to tell or write-ups to share or whatever. And we had like this giant festival where everybody had tables and they had their stuff. And you would just wander through the festival and eat the food and enjoy and learn and meet people. And it was the coolest thing. Now, I realize today, fast forward how many years, there's probably a lot more issues about people bringing food and sharing food publicly. I'm sure there's a lot of public health no-nos about that these days, but maybe there's some idea there that could be reworked, that could be like a really cool event for our city to have, like a cultural festival, and just try to bring all different segments, all different people, to everybody together and share unique things about what they know. Even if it's not your heritage, maybe you really enjoy learning about Poland and you want to share all that, like anything, like just celebrating diversity, celebrating various cultures and backgrounds, and bringing people together. Like we could sponsor that kind of a thing, like actually create our own, like the city has cultural chaos. We could have, something that's maybe not quite as massive as that, but like something that focused on sharing and educating about various cultures and diversity among us.
Okay.
Just another like wild kind of brainstorm, throw it out there kind of idea.
Well, I think, yeah, it's a good idea. I think that there's many ideas. I think COVID just kind of, is a little jamming, especially as we enter the fall and potentially more more exposure to the new variant and on and on. But I feel like having people have to participate and do food and all, that sounds great, but I don't think we're going to be getting together like that anytime soon. It doesn't seem that realistic.
Mm-hmm.
And,
but just like an idea, and maybe people could take that concept, that idea, and spin it into something that and it's probably not realistic at all for our society at this time, but down the road, if it's on a list of possible brainstorming ideas, maybe at some point down the road when COVID isn't a thing, it could be worked into something that would be meaningful or fun or helpful.
So I know briefly in Kansas City, we had something similar. It's called the Ethnic Festival. To serve on the committee that put the Ethnic Festival together was a high civic honor for those who participated. They got through the food thing, the food issue, by having the health department certify all of the food trucks, et cetera. But it was a major event. It lasted for 3 or 4 days. It was in the city's largest park, covered by all the television stations. COVID killed it, if you will, but it was a huge event that the city took pride in. The entire city took pride in.
Cool.
So we've generated ideas on this, and it sounds like there's for the forum committee, there's research that needs to be done. But there's definitely this notion that the committee could actually be leveraging other organizations or other programs that are out there and present programming to the committee. So what would be the challenge in making that happen? Are there organizational challenges, political challenges? Is it an issue of resources? What are the challenges that are keeping the committee from moving forward with programming?
Well, I think we just need to complete this process with you. So we have a roadmap and we have our agreed upon plan and vision and I think before we start working on any individual aspects of these things, we need to kind of finalize and complete our plan, complete this process.
In terms of, so as far as I can see with this is that you've agreed that that's the highest priority of the committee is to develop or support programs. You've generated a list of 4 things that the committee could readily take on. One of them, as a COVID issue. So I don't know what more other than the specifics would be needed.
Well, I'm just wondering, how many more sessions, Derek, do you think that we need to have with you to kind of finish our process and actually write up our plan? Like we'll have a document. This is our strategic plan. This is it. This is going to be our roadmap for.
Yeah. So for this issue here, I think that you've generated, you got a sense of what the possibilities are. I think you could probably do an action plan in about an hour to an hour and a half that would go through all this things, start to listing how you would do the first, second, third series of programs and events.
Mhm.
On the one we started with on foster through education and public information, that one you needed more information on. And so you're going to have to figure out what the city is doing and how to best tie in. The third one really kind of supports these other two, and that's enlist the cooperation of other government agencies, groups, organizations. And that's really identifying the library, the police department, the Chamber of Commerce. There's a few other organizations in other cities that were mentioned, and just coming out who's going to contact those organizations, what information, what role do you see them serving, how can you use them in terms of furthering your event, what should they know about you, what do you need to know about them, and then just doing introductory meetings between these organizations and the CRC. So I don't see that many meetings, or you could take it on yourself. But one, you need more information. The other, you just need to nail down, this is what we're going to do first. This is who's going to do what. Here's what our challenges are. Here's what the resources are. Do we have enough money to sponsor the event? Think it through. What are the decisions that need to be made? Who needs to make them? How are those decisions made? Is it the committee does the chair have to sign off, or the co-chairs have to sign off on any kind of document or check? I don't know how that process works. But there's a roadmap to actually doing the event, an event. And then the others are just really, what organizations need to be contacted, then developing a plan in terms of who's going to reach those organizations and actually reaching out to them. I don't see that many meetings, if really any. I mean, you've identified your top 5 priorities.
So so as I see it tonight, we kind of spoke in depth about the top 2,
Mm-hmm.
right? So we still have 3, 4, and 5.
Mm-hmm.
So can we have another session with you to kind of go through, maybe we can do 3, 4, and 5 and one more work session with you to work through the other 5, the top 5?
Yeah. So yes, the answer to that is yes.
Yes. Well, also, I think once we get more information from Lindsay about the notify me issue and how that can be, we can kind of be part of that, or maybe they don't need us to be part. I mean, I have no idea, except we found it by accident, and I don't know. None of us knew about it.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, but that seems to be like a focus right now, but I don't know exactly how, if that will, turn out to be something that we're really going to focus on.
It may not, but at least it'll be an informed decision.
Mm-hmm.
And so, again, as my goal at this point is that once you settle on a goal and you work through all the challenges, there should be nothing stopping you from implementing it.
Mm-hmm.
And you identified all the resources that you need, and who's responsible for what, and making it happen with the date in mind. So that's kind of where I would like to lead you on all 5 areas. And again, it's not that much work. It's just identifying who's willing to take on what roles. But first, you got to kind of agree on what each of these sentences actually look like in real life. And I think we've accomplished that with 2 of them today.
Okay. I guess okay.
What do you think?
No, I guess it's my linear brain. I think I have to have this linear. So I guess I'm just longing to finish 1 through 5 and then go back and tackle, the next steps with regard to all the various components, so I'm just longing to want to finish 3, 4, and 5 with you before we get into the nitty gritty of even like all the details that Rebecca and I might learn from Lindsay, and share that, and then potentially have conversations with them about that. Like I'm longing to want to finish 1 through 5 first.
Okay, so that should be done easily in one meeting, right? Yeah, we could finish up 3, 4, and 5 in one meeting.
Okay.
And it would just be visioning, right? What does that look
Can
like?
we look at dates?
Yeah, can we do that? Does anybody object to that?
No, I don't object to that. I will say it's going on 8:30 now, and
Right.
I need to go make my dinner and get moving.
Okay, so is that okay with you, Derek? Could we
That's-
set up
that's fine.
another work session and kind of wrap up 3, 4, and 5? And then maybe the following meeting, Rebecca and I can report back about, we can get into nitty gritty about assignments and we can report back.
Or if you want to, yeah, so whatever works for you. If you want to report back with Rebecca first, that's fine. If not, whatever works for you, just let me know. Tuesday nights, they are open.
Okay. All right, so can we set up our next meeting date?
Sure.
Okay. So originally, we were striving for a first Tuesday of the month routine. We're right, correct? Originally, that was our goal.
Yes. I'm not available. I won't be available the first 2 Tuesdays, the first 3 actually. Anyway,
In September.
yeah, well, the 14th. I'm available, but
I know Rebecca has a conflict on the second Tuesdays of the month, correct?
Actually, that's different now. It's been different since I lost my mom. So
Oh,
I used to see her on the second Tuesday of the month.
oh, okay.
So that's all right.
Would the 14th work for people? September 14th? Emily, would that work for you, September 14th?
I have another committee that I'm on and it meets that night.
Okay.
it's fine.
What do you all suggest?
The
I am free the 21st.
21st.
Anyone else free on the 21st?
Did you
Anyone
say
else
you're
not
away?
free on the 21st?
Possible.
Margaret, it's possible for you?
It's possible for me on the 21st.
Should we go for that?
Sounds good. 6:30 or
Do you guys want to go back to 6? Or 6:30?
I would rather do, well, I'm not going to say, because I'll say 6 and then I'll have to come late, but.
Let's try 6. then.
Try 6, Margaret?
Earlier than later.
So 6 o'clock?
I can adapt to either one. Yeah.
All right, well, let's go for 6 p.m. on Tuesday, September 21st.
Great.
As a work session?
Work session. So we'll finish 3, 4, and 5. And hopefully Rebecca and I will also be reporting back on what we've learned from Lindsay. Does that make sense?
sounds good.
That's not a school committee night, is it? Because I'm afraid then we would lose Myra. But
Yes. We should
not
look
sure.
at this calendar to figure that out.
yeah, I know she likes to go to that one. But
Let's see.
So while she's checking the calendar, Derek, just a quick check-in with you. How is your settling into Massachusetts going?
It's not at this moment. I'm a little frustrated, but it's not.
you've moved here?
Not yet. Not yet. It's in the works.
Where are you moving?
Boston area.
Oh wow.
So I was in Massachusetts 2 weeks ago. I was in the Berkshires
Uh-huh.
and definitely enjoyed it and the culture,
Mm-hmm.
scenery. I learned that there are black bears that run through people's backyards.
Right here in Easthampton.
Really?
I can't have bird feeders because there's too many bears.
Yeah.
We don't have that in the Midwest, so that kind of took me by surprise.
It's true.
We have a bear problem. We do.
We do. I know.
We have moose and bobcats and foxes and deer.
Coyotes.
Coyote.
So that's a level of wildlife that, I mean, I got squirrels and possums and the occasional raccoon. That's about it.
Well,
Oh, that's
So you're
in
looking for,
Boston, they don't have bears. They don't have bears in Boston.
But they do have wild turkeys. I saw when I was there, they had turkeys running down the.
The school committee is, September 1st at 6 p.m.
September 21st?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And they're also meeting tonight, right? So that's maybe why Myra had a conflict.
We don't know. But anyway, they are
Well,
meeting. So the 14th, there are no other meetings on the 14th.
yeah. So
So what, wait a second. Oh, who can't do it on the 14th? Because
I can't, but I might be able to come for the first hour, maybe. I think that meeting starts at 7.
That sounds awful.
Yeah.
Does the 28th not work?
The 28th, the only meeting right now is the contributory retirement board. And that meets at 1:30 p.m. if anybody's going to that. So
right, and I'm not available on the 28th. Anyway, the 14th would work for me, but you should schedule whatever because I have very limited availability. And I think the 21st, if it's going to conflict with I don't know that it's going to conflict with Myra, but it's likely to that she should actually be here for sure.
I know. I mean, I would say if it's down to me or Myra, I would say maybe Myra should make the next meeting and I can miss it.
That would be the 14th then.
Yeah. Yeah.
all right, the 14th or the 28th?
So we're talking the 14th or the 28th. I'd just like to say with school committee, unless you're going to speak to the committee, people can watch the meeting after the meeting or before, like you can watch at any time if it's just a matter of staying informed.
I
Right.
don't
You can
know.
also submit letters for public speak if you want to, if it was something very
Yeah.
timely that way. I don't know.
Well, can you guys, can the chair send out an email asking about Gabby and Jan also? And
Right.
if
All right.
of them are available on the 14th versus the 21st
Okay. Yeah, that sounds,
or 21st, 28th, whatever.
we'll send it. That's a great idea, Emily. We'll send out an email and just check in with everybody and see. So what we're putting out there is 14th, 21st, or 28th? Is that what we're putting out there? Okay.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's a great idea.
And Derek, you're available all of those times?
Yep, just let me know.
Okay, perfect. You're so agreeable. That's wonderful.
Well, Tuesday nights work, so
Awesome.
excellent. Thank you, guys.
Do we need to
Thank
help?
you.
Do we need to
Thank
help
you.
you? Derek, do we need to help you figure out what towns you need to research before you dive in?
So, I've been doing some of that and looking at particular neighborhoods in the Boston area as well.
Uh-huh.
And then my
Hi,
first,
Patty. Hi, Patty. Yeah.
we just